Welcome, everybody. This is the Prather Point, Jeff Prather. I'm going to jump right in here. Breaking is the Iran invasion and Israeli trap. We're also going to talk about Trump's truce made traders millions and why the Iranian invasion cannot succeed. How Israel and the U.S. incited a global religious war. And Team America's strategist, operations officer, Nathan Glover, guests and will join me. But I want to start off with my latest Substack that just came out, Is Iran Invasion and Israeli Trap? So this is my record, last-ditch best effort to save U.S. military lives from what I can only describe as an Israeli religious war trap that can only entangle the U.S. in an eternal cycle of spilt blood. All intelligence information indicates President Trump's Iranian negotiations were faked and invasion is imminent, likely Friday. Israel continued striking Iran without pause. Iran denied all negotiations. Meanwhile, stock traders made oil bets totaling in the 9 figures in a 2-minute period just over half an hour before President Trump revealed that there had been productive conversations between the U.S. and Iran. In reality, as I understand it, it's simply a Turkish messenger passing messages back and forth. All data indicates the U.S. has decided to bring ground forces into the conflict due to the stalemate in the war situation and the extremely intense time and political pressure on Trump. 9 months ago, when we were discussing regime change, people were saying we were crazy. And now we are there. The U.S. is coordinated with Saudi Arabia and the UAE to start the operation, and the U.K. has accepted to participate, and this is a change, in the operation alongside the U.S. Air defense systems are also being transferred to the region, and at the same time, there are plans for terrorist chaos on the border and in some cities. The U.S. may simultaneously seek to hit several infrastructures and carry out high-level assassinations. But Iran has mastered the entire U.S. plan and intends to create a historic and unforgettable quagmire for the U.S. forces in a way that, firstly, will bring decisive political end to Trump, and secondly, by creating a new security equation and geopolitical order of the region, which will change and, while restoring Iran's deterrence, establish superiority over America's Arab allies, and the Israeli regime will be permanently established. The historic national solidarity that any attack on Iran soil, the rally around the flag phenomena, is universal, will create within the country, will enable Iran to manage a long-term war as it has, and contrary to U.S. assessments, which are really, I think, Israeli assessments, will seriously reduce Iran's internal challenges. Iran estimates that a new phase of the battle will begin in about 2 days. In the last few hours, Iran has struck very sensitive targets in Haifa and Dimona. Dimona is Israel's nuclear center, with the aim of preemptively crippling the enemy's war machine. A new wave of operations against the military infrastructure has begun in that region. The main goals of this is the preemptive destruction of U.S. ammunition, equipment, and personnel before any operation against Iran begins. My operational assessment as America's intelligence officer is no type of operation against the Iranian islands will open the Strait of Hormuz. I'll say that again. My assessment is no type of operation against the Iranian islands will open the Strait of Hormuz. No single attack on the islands will work either, because, in fact, the geography of the islands is completely dependent upon each other. Iran has been arming these islands with great care and detail for the past 40 years, and the attacks of the U.S. and Israeli regime over the past 20 days have not damaged any of Iran's basic military infrastructure on the islands. Any type of action against the Iranian islands will, in fact, lead to a definitive and long-term blockage of the Strait of Hormuz, which is in line with Iran's war strategy. Iran and Hezbollah just jointly attacked 80 targets across the occupied territories in one of the most extensive attacks since the beginning of the war. The scale of destruction is unprecedented. Israel is in flames and politically fragmented. America's Mideast bases are devastated and mostly abandoned. At the same time, Israel is pursuing their Greater Israel project and pushing into Lebanon, doing what they did to Lebanon now that they did to Gaza. As Tucker recently stated, starting off the Iran war by assassinating Iran's religious leader, who was already dying of cancer, unified the Iran base and started a regional religious war that is quickly becoming global. This was an Israeli, not American, goal to embroil and commit the U.S. to the conflict for Israel's sake. The upcoming invasion, while possibly taking some tactical objectives such as Karg Island and at high cost in U.S. troop lives, cannot be held, in my opinion. Hidden underground Iranian missiles and drones, combined with subs, mines, subsurface drones, and fast attack surface aircraft swarms, will pound all of these areas, and the strait will remain closed. While the Tripoli 31st MU Marine Expeditionary Unit dropping HIMARS, I've talked about this extensively already, on Oman and UAE islands is a workable tactic, it does not seem to integrate in any way with a larger force assault, such as the 82nd and the 11th MU. Recall, please, what a successful regime change looks like when U.S. Special Forces Green Berets, I've had them on the show, doing exactly the opposite of what the Soviets did for a decade with massive targets and footprints in Afghanistan. ODA's 595, 555, and follow-on Green Berets that successfully regime changed Afghanistan's Taliban regime within weeks was successful precisely because it was a small, mobile footprint. The larger Delta, 6, JSOC, and then follow-on conventional forces, though successful tactically, were in the end a strategic disaster against the asymmetrical fourth-generation resistance warfare of the Taliban, who, after 20 years of blood and treasure, are back in charge in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Vietnam, and a long list of other countries reveal this ruthless truth. As a retired soldier and veteran of foreign wars, I want us to win, even if I disagree with the war. And I don't want to see my brothers and sisters in uniform die and suffer needlessly. But as an expert and experienced intelligence officer specializing in seeing over the horizon, I cannot see any way how we win this. Along with my prayers, this is a record of my last-ditch best efforts to save American military from what I can only see in this Israeli religious war trap that can only entangle us in an unwinnable, eternal cycle of bloodletting. And that is my latest Substack. So I'm going to format differently today because I think this is so important. And thank you all for tuning in. And please like, share, and subscribe this. But I'm going to bring on Nathan Glover. He's been on before. He is Team America's S3 operations officer, that is chief strategist. Team America is my volunteer effort to rely on God and each other, just like America started, and not corrupt government in DC, just like we stopped relying on corrupt government in Britain. And he's responsible for all of the national strategies of Team America, operational plans, and disseminating them and enabling and helping the states execute those. He's also a veteran of special operations himself, and he's also an expert on Zionism and a former Jew turned Christian. And I want to bounce off a lot of what I'm saying here because I'm making a lot of very strong statements here. So, Nathan, thank you so much for coming back on. I know this is messing up with your sleep schedule and everything, so thanks for taking the time.
It's an honor. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So let's start off. Got a lot to talk about, and I haven't been able to get Joe Kent back on or Douglas McGregor back on or anybody. But it appears Generals Petraeus, McChrystal, who I knew back in the Ranger when I deployed with the Ranger Regiment, Mattis are all in agreement with what I'm saying. Are you in agreement that Trump's negotiations are a fake, just preparing for imminent ground force invasion?
Yeah, it definitely appears to be that is the case, that he's stalling and buying time for certain military units to be pre-positioned, and also likely to normalize the flow of oil and energy sector, because it was getting a little bit too hectic, and oil was climbing a little bit too high in prices. So it looks like it's a strategy of backing off and then kind of like a boa constrictor, letting off and then squeezing, letting off and then squeezing. But this next squeeze, he's going to have his global response force pre-positioned in the AO. Likely when Trump deploys military units, he uses them. So that's been his track record.
And so let's back up for a second, and please go over your military and religious credentials for people who haven't heard you before.
I was a paratrooper in the 82nd, and I was raised Jewish my entire life, and only recently converted to Catholicism. But I've been a believer in Yeshua for a very long time.
And you're also very expert on Chabad Lubavitch and a lot of Zionists and secret orders as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And we've talked about those before. So would you also agree with me that not only did Trump stabilize the markets, but it looks like traders made hundreds of millions in suspiciously timed Iran bets, that stock traders made oil bets totaling 9 figures in a 2-minute period, just over half an hour before Trump's revealed that there had been productive conversations. Traders dealt more than 6,000 Brent and West Texas intermediate future contracts, collecting worth $580 million between 6:49 and 6:50 on Monday. Would you agree with that as well?
I do agree with that, and I did see that, and that appears to be what's taken place.
And that is unfortunately a very cynical, because that's making money off of future troops' blood, as I see it. And another thing, are you in agreement? And again, as I always say, you should feel free to disagree with me. Although I think usually we're pretty well aligned. I've been following your stuff on X, great stuff. That Netanyahu is either dead or in a coma. All the appearances have shown AI fakes or old tapes, or do you think I'm wrong about that?
No, I think you're correct in that. It looks like he's either dead or in hiding. He hasn't been seen in public for almost a month now. And then I think only yesterday his top spokesperson stepped down.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's also a very large indicator that he's incapacitated in some kind of manner. Whether he's dead or not, I don't know for sure, but
yeah, I don't know either. And his official plane, Wing of Zion, the Boeing 767, has been parked since February 28th at the Berlin Brandenburg airport. So it kind of sounds like he's either in coma or interned in Germany. At least that's the way I take that. Any thoughts?
The last that I heard, he did go to Germany to hunker down when the war first started. So it is possible that's where he's located.
So with ground invasion imminent, and especially since you're in 82nd, the 82nd is 18-hour unit has been activated and going to be deployed. Let's get into the details of what you and I think the planners are doing. So I mentioned, and I've talked about recently on previous casts, how the Tripoli is an amphibious marine landing craft of the Navy, but it's the only one without a well deck. So the Marines can't come ashore in hovercraft or landing ship tanks or anything like that. They would actually come via Osprey or H-53 Helo, and that might be an advantage. That might be a tactic that would work. They could put some HIMARS on the ground, shoot those, and then load those up and move if they were doing the Oman and UAE islands. But to me, it doesn't look like that tactic integrates with this larger strategic force. As I was talking about, the Green Berets in Afghanistan did not integrate with the larger secondary Afghan war. Comments on that?
Yeah, just given the nature of the conflict and what its stated objectives are, which is to dismantle Iranian nuclear programs and sites, I can say that being from the 82nd, we trained quite a bit to jump into Pakistan, for instance, and seize their nuclear materials in case the country collapsed. And that whole operational planning for that could very easily be moved over to an Iranian situation, being that it's right next door. When I'm sure they have plans drawn up for that for many years.
Oh, so you think the 82nd is going to seize the nuclear material? I'm thinking that the Ranger Regiment is going to, which has been deployed too, I believe, is going to put up its typical ring of defense, and then Delta, which has a nuclear recovery mission alongside Nest, was actually going to do that. You're thinking
normally I would agree with that. However, given the nature of the conventional threat that's faced, I would say they need way more bodies than just the Rangers and SF to accomplish those objectives. So I would say the 82nd has in the past gone on with special operations. There was a jump that they did with the Rangers to seize some type of intelligence from an airfield in Afghanistan, I believe in 2005. And the result of that, they dragged out, was it? I don't remember. It was a very well-known terrorist out of Pakistan, which was the result of that intelligence gain. So it's not totally out of the question for the 82nd to operate with the Rangers and SF in those types of missions. They've done it before. And
yeah, I knew a Ranger. I knew a Ranger who got his combat star on that jump. Well, so the more it certainly looks from Hegseth and the criticisms again of retired generals Petraeus, Mattis, and McChrystal, that the strategy looks much more conventional than the Tripoli 31st MU. It looks like to me Karg Island, which is the 90% of the oil processing, would probably be a MU exercise. The Kem Islands, the Greater and Lesser Tab, and Abu Musa Islands would be the Tripoli 31st MU, and then the 21-mile coast would be the 82nd, taking out the underground batteries and then actually having to go clear underground. But I'm very concerned about the FPV drone response there, because I don't think the U.S. military, including the 82nd, and SOCOM have really addressed the new state-of-the-art warfare that's happening in Ukraine. So that's a multi-pronged question. So take your time with that one.
Yeah, as far as Karg Island, that's possible. Maybe they think that it would provide them with an easy victory that they could claim. We seized Karg Island. Look at us. And then they can declare victory and kind of save face and whatnot. But given the fact that Iran has demonstrated precise missile targeting and the ability to continue to fire missiles from a standoff, plus, as you mentioned, with the drone threat, which we're not prepared for, I can't see how any invasion into Iranian territory is going to be met with success at this point.
Yeah, they can take it. The Marines and the 82nd can take those objectives, but I don't see how they hold them because of the drones and also just because of the extent of the underground tunnels. I think they're going to run out of guys. I think it starts to look like a Battle of the Bulge, 101 kind of scenario, or on the shoreline, a Gallipoli scenario.
And as U.S. casualties stack up, you're gonna face more dissent at home, which is going to place more pressure on withdrawal. So it's not looking good.
So you're pretty much in agreement with my views on all of this.
Yes.
And again, so are McChrystal, Petraeus, Mattis, and other generals.
Eric Prince even said it was a horrible idea, and that man's never seen a war he doesn't like, and he's saying don't do this. So if the head GWAT, I don't want to call him a mercenary, but if the head contractor from the GWAT
he's totally
is saying that, maybe you should listen to him.
Yeah. So then Hegseth does not seem to be very have much depth to him. Rubio as well, and Trump seems to be contradicting himself, saying the war's won. They gave me a gift of putting 10 ships through. He seems very confused at this point.
Yes, I think he's getting very bad advice from a lot of very bad people who have a lot of agendas that don't align with the American people's.
And he keeps choosing Israeli intelligence over U.S. intelligence.
Correct.
Because it seems to be in disagreement. DNI Gabbard, although she's standing by the president, said that there was no immediate nuclear threat. I think that was the DIA's position even before she came on. And then, of course, Joe Kett, who I know, who's been on the show and who's, background from Second Rangers, 5th Special Forces, specialized Tier 1 intelligence unit, and then in CIA SAD ground branch, just a warrior, has been very, very clear and courageous about that, and pretty much degraded Mark Levin when he went on the show there.
I saw that.
So why is Trump choosing Israeli intelligence over U.S. intelligence?
Well, I think the answer at this point is pretty obvious to that, and that's that he's compromised. He's completely surrounded by these people, which he has placed into those positions. And so there's a filter of the people that he surrounded himself with, and they're all Zionists. So they're all going to receive any information or intelligence that they get through that lens. And, he's, like you said, he froze out Tulsi Gabbard. And she was probably one of the only I don't want to say pro-America, but pro-America voices in his administration, giving him information which aligns with our objectives and not Israel's. It looks like at this point, Jared Kushner is running this administration, in my estimation. And the
Well,
Epstein files have backed that up with the FBI doing a report saying that Kushner and I believe Witkoff, I could be wrong on Witkoff, but definitely Kushner and Kabod were attempting to seize power over the presidency and the executive branch. And we were told before Trump became president that Jared Kushner would not be part of this administration. And now we see him going overseas every week, meeting with every world leader, basically doing the president's job in his stead.
and he has no
So
official capability. He has no official function, no official job.
zero.
Well,
It's
I wasn't going to go into this yet, but since you brought it up, so Kushner is with Chabad Lubavitch, and
yes.
Chabad Lubavitch, while a lot of Jews think that this is a legitimate organization, it is really a very sinister organization. I don't know if you remember seeing my ex repost of the Chabad Lubavitch guy saying the bloody mattress was because we were bloodletting corpses to try and to re-alive.
Rebbe Schneerson.
Yeah, Rebbe Schneerson.
Yeah.
Did I have that right, or was I off on something there? Or
No, you nailed it. That's exactly what they were trying to do. Um, it's basically the Jewish version of black magic, which is called kashuf, and it's a practical Kabbalah. Now I don't know the specific ritual they were using for that, but that appears to be what they were doing down there with that, at least with that mattress. They were taking the deceased bodies of Chabad Lubavitch members and attempting to do a magical ritual to bring the Rebbe back to life, basically. Who they believe is the Messiah and who they believe never really died.
and what about this other Messiah they're talking about right now in Israel?
Rav
It's
Yehuda.
Yeah, it's a rabbi who seemingly knows the Torah very well.
Yes. I believe that they call him the Yanukah. That's his nickname. I don't know his full name. It's Rav Yehuda something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll think of it in a minute. But yes, there's been a lot of rumblings online for many years that he's a potential candidate for the Mashiach. He's been performing miracles for many years. Whenever he goes to the Wailing Wall, all the ultra religious, ultra Zion or ultra Orthodox Jews surround him and treat him like he's the Pope. So there's definitely something there. I don't know exactly how he figures in to that, or how he, as opposed to Trump, because I've also seen a lot of rabbis saying that Trump is the Mashiach.
Well,
But
Trump is the political version, and he's
political,
the spiritual one, as I
correct.
understand it.
The Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Joseph. So in Chabad, especially, and in Judaism, they have two messiahs that are supposed to come. One paves the way for the other. So Trump could absolutely be fulfilling that Mashiach ben Joseph role, whereas the Yanukah will then step in and be the spiritual or the Mashiach ben David.
And I'm sure you saw my cast and Substack on Trump being America's first Jewish president.
Yes.
You concur with that as well?
I would say at this point, it's a very safe bet that he converted to Chabad Lubavitch. Just in my experience, whenever you have a family member that joins Chabad, there's immense pressure placed on the rest of the family to convert. And his daughter may very well have pressured him into converting. And there's some evidence online that I've seen that took place in 2017, which
Yeah,
in and of itself isn't a problem. I mean, if you're Jewish, you're Jewish, but don't pretend like you're Christian to get votes. If you're something, something else. That's
yes,
the issue.
yes, and he's on video saying, my Christians, I love my Christians, but I'm not Christian.
But I'm not Christian. And at the time, I was like, well, maybe he just misspoke. But given his actions and the people that he surrounds himself which are, I mean, you've got Witkoff, Kushner, Kaploon, the anti-Semitism czar, All these people are Chabad Lubavitch. So he's surrounded by these people, and that fact, given with everything, with his connections to the Temple Institute, housing the Ark of the Covenant at Mar-a-Lago for 8 months, which is a Kabbalistic replica made out of 5 pounds of solid gold that is destined to go into the new third temple. That's the biggest tell right there, that he had that at Mar-a-Lago. There's no reason that man should have that, being a non-Jewish figure. That's an item of honor for somebody within that movement to have at his house. That was a big tell for me.
So Earl Jackson on X, if they wanted to disable CARG, just bomb the 4 underwater pipelines. So they don't want to disable it. They want to take it and hold it. Disabling it actually helps the Iranians, as I understand it, Earl Jackson, or do I have that wrong, Nathan?
And it would take years to rebuild that infrastructure.
In fact, the infrastructure that's already been destroyed is going to take years to rebuild.
Yeah, even now with, yes.
And also, hopefully, Trump is double crossing Israel, hoping Iran destroys them. No, we're the ones being destroyed. That's the title of my Substack and show is we have been lured into an Israeli trap that looks like it is designed to destroy all our elite forces, the 82nd, the MEU, the Rangers. That's what this looks like to me, which in the greater Israel scheme of things, when the Goyim that are Arab and Christian destroy each other, that strengthens the greater Israel anyway. And so it's a win-win.
Gog Magog, yes.
Somebody's asking, aren't Trump, Putin, and Zelensky Chabad Lubavitch?
Yes.
Really?
They are all connected with Chabad Lubavitch. Putin is partially Jewish. I don't think many people know that. I'm not sure how much ancestry he has, but I believe his grandfather was Jewish, and he's been around Chabad Lubavitch since he was a child. So whether he's a Shabbos Goy for them or if he actually converted, I don't know. But he is very, very close to Chabad Lubavitch, and he's definitely involved in their agendas. Zelensky was groomed by Ihor Kolomoisky, which is Chabad's largest oligarch and donor in Ukraine. So given that lens, you can see how when they formed these neo-Nazi units in Ukraine, which gave Putin the pretext to invade Ukraine, it's a Hegelian dialectic problem, reaction, solution, because Chabad is controlling both sides very clearly. And who's stuck in the middle? White Christian Europeans that are being decimated by the millions in Ukraine. And then you say, well, why would they do that? Well, Ukraine is the historical homeland. Ukraine and that area of Russia is the historical homeland of Chabad Lubavitch. And potentially they know that Israel is going to go bye-bye and they need a place to go afterwards, which is possibly why they're starting wildfires and buying up land cheap in Argentina, where another Chabad Lubavitch president resides, Milei.
So we're not going to be going after Argentina anytime soon.
No, I'd bet against that.
And I think the most obvious proof that Trump is captured by the deep state and the international cabal, as in Kabbalah, is Trump is now backing FISA. On Wednesday, he threw his support behind an effort to renew the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And of course, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Zionist, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune have been working to pass it as well. Of course, we all know about the abuses back when I was a whistleblower in my day, and I said they've actually changed the transcripts of what I said, and nobody believed me. Then Kleinskith came out and it was actually proven that the FBI actually did change transcripts. And how I knew it in my case is they turned the tape recorder off. You know, when you're doing an undercover operation, you start with the date and time group, and you let it run through the whole conversation. And then you, on the other end, you put the same date and time group, so you have a chain of custody of what's happening there. But he's saying, with the ongoing successful military activities against the terrorist Iranian regime, which tells you everything right there, it is more important than ever that we remain vigilant, protect our homeland, troops, and diplomats stationed abroad, and maintain our ability to quickly stop bad actors. And that's why we need FISA.
Well, the bad actors are already here, and we're sending our military overseas, and we're going to be left defenseless. And when our best get decimated, they're not going to be able to come back here and do anything.
And what about Laura Loomer? And I guess Laura Loomer, it was a man. I guess it transitioned like
Larry Loomer.
Larry Loomer, yeah. Like,
I don't know for sure, but it's possible. I wouldn't put it past her.
Has announced that there's going to be another 9/11 style event, 10 times worse, which is to then
eerily very descriptive prediction that she made, like she was reading it off a teleprompter. And so if there's such a great terrorist threat here in America, why are we deploying our forces? Shouldn't they be here looking for this terrorist threat? We spent 4 years under Biden with a completely open border. There's God knows what in this country right now. And so, in my mind and estimation, anyone advocating for a foreign intervention right now at this juncture is absolutely a traitor to this country.
Yeah, but of course, half of Congress has dual citizenship with Israel.
Yeah.
So the Chabad Lubavitch is really a big part of the international global cabal. I mean, when I say global cabal, really Kabbalistic, really, I'm literally correct. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they are. They're at the close to the top. I would say at the very top, you have families like the Rothschilds who control all the finances and the banks and the money and whatnot. And then you have groups like the World Jewish Congress and B'nai B'rith, who are basically function as the left wing of the Rothschild bird. And then on the right wing, you have Chabad. So you have this dialectic, the left wing and the right wing. And they're rivals of one another, Chabad and B'nai B'rith, but they're not enemies. Yeah. They have similar goals. They just don't agree on how to get there. And both want control of the compromat from the Epstein operation, which I believe Chabad has at this point, and they're holding it over Trump. Whether Trump's implicated himself or people close to Trump, he's obviously compromised, 100%.
Yeah, I've never really felt that Trump was compromised. I've seen the latest stuff. I'm unsure about it, but certainly those close to him are compromised, and also some of the stuff you see coming out of Mar-a-Lago, furries and all kinds of costumes, isn't helping anything.
No, it's very decadent and very illustrative of the type of people who would be associated with an Epstein.
Looks like a Nero Caligula type scenario.
100%. Yes.
So where does Chabad Lubavitch then fit into the Israeli Greater Israel government and the Netanyahu faction?
Well, Chabad is extremely influential. They're the largest Jewish organization in the world. They have Chabad houses in nearly every country on earth. Even countries without any Jews, there's a Chabad house. They act as a Sayanim network for Mossad. They provide safe houses for their activities and operations. They're also an organized criminal mafia. They're known to traffic organs, drugs, guns. There's plenty of evidence of that. And they are the ideological linchpin of the Likud party, which is currently the party in power in Israel, and which has formed this amalgamation with Kahanism, which is the terrorist philosophy of an extremist rabbi named Meir Kahane, which was listed as a terrorist organization up until very recently by the State Department. This is then intertwined with the Temple Institute and the extremist settlers in the West Bank.
I was
So
just going to ask you about those.
yes.
So those are,
So
those are all and
they're all connected, and they all have as their singular laser focused goal demolishing Al-Aqsa and rebuilding the Third Temple. They will stop at nothing to get this.
And this is the greater Israel pushing out right now in Gaza and Lebanon.
Yes. Well, and in Iran they're using our military to do it. They have to knock Iran down in order to solidify their greater Israel project. They can't have another nation close by that rivals them. They have to have complete hegemony over the whole region.
But in 5,000 years, with all the mountains, the tunnels, the national identity of Persia, even though there's Kurds and lots of other folks in Iran, is Iran takeable, and is Iran holdable? Because in my estimation, it is not either. It's not takeable, and it is not holdable.
Not at all, but that's what we have to realize, is that this war is not overtaking ground. This war is an eschatological war, and it's a war to bring about religious prophecy. And it's not just the Jews. There's Christian Zionists who have a stake in this eschatology, and you also have the 12er Shia Muslims who also have their end times eschatology. And it's all coinciding at the same exact time. So they all have a vested interest in escalating this war to Armageddon. Because all their
is that the 12th Mahdi to nail down the world, that last ladder you were referencing?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about
Imam, that? The Mahdi, yes. The 12th Imam. And according to them, the Jewish Mashiach will be the Dajjal, the Antichrist, the Muslim Antichrist. So that's where we actually agree with the Muslims, the Christians, is that the Jewish Mashiach will end up being the Antichrist or the Dajjal.
So I think you said something really important, and I said this at the beginning too, and Tucker brought this out recently too, is by assassinating the Iranian religious supreme leader, that initiated a regional religious war that is quickly turning into a global religious war. And such wars are intractable because most people, unlike us, don't change, who learn and grow, but most people are tribal in their religious beliefs, and those don't change. And that was really by design of Israel, correct?
100%. Yes. They're doing everything they can to ensure an escalation. They want it to get as bad as possible, because in their eschatology, there has to be a redemption brought about. And so there has to be great suffering. And so there's rabbis online jumping for joy over getting slammed by Iranian missiles. They love it. Because this is the fulfillment
that sounds like Sabbateism and Frankism. Is that correct?
It all stems from that, yes.
So please go back and review that for people who may not have heard your previous guest appearances.
Sure. So in the mid 1600s, there was a very charismatic Jewish leader named Shabbatai Savi. And he got with a rabbi named Nathan of Gaza and basically proclaimed himself to be the Jewish Mashiach. He was able to gather half the Jewish world as his followers. They all believed he was the Messiah. And the year of this was 1666, which had great Kabbalistic significance. At the crescendo of his of his, I don't want to say ministry, but he went to the Ottoman Sultan to ask to rebuild the third temple. The Ottoman Sultan recognized what a threat this man was and how evil he was. And he said, no, I'll make you a better deal. Convert to Islam or I'll chop your head off. And Savi converted to Islam, and this dismayed his followers. How could he be the Mashiach if he converted to Islam? But he had a hardcore contingent that stayed with him. And they used that example of him converting to Islam to form their own eschatology as Sabbateans, where they infiltrate other religions and subvert them from within while practicing their satanic Kabbalah in secret. And they did this with Catholicism, with the Protestant church. We see this with Darby and Schofield Bible. They had influence on that. We see it with the Donma in Turkey, who some say the Saudi royal family are connected to.
Well, let's back up there for a second, because this is fascinating. And why I wanted to get you back on is, can you go deeper into the link with Darby and the Schofield Bible? Because that directly implicates the Protestant evangelical crowd that is all the American Christian Zionists today.
Sure. So Darby's work was funded out of Oxford by the Rothschilds. And the entire, he was, I can't remember if he was arrested or if he went to prison, but he was accused of being a fraud and defrauding people. And he moved to America.
Yeah.
And so basically the Rothschilds have been planning this whole thing for hundreds of years, and they've been putting all these pieces into play. And American Christian Zionism is one of their greatest psyops. And that's exactly what it is. And it's taken over 100 years to reach its fruition. They had to reestablish the nation of Israel first, obviously. But all of this end times eschatology all goes back to the Sabbateans and the drive to rebuild the third temple and rule the world from Jerusalem. That was Sabbatai Zevi's goal back in 1666. He was the first Zionist, more or less, the first political Zionist.
Yeah.
And so since that time, the most fervent Zionists have always been tied to the Frankists and the Sabbateans. Theodor Herzl, all these people came from or were adjacent to the Reformed Jewish movement, which ties directly to Moses Dobrobshka, who himself was a Sabbatean Frankist.
And that also ties, I guess, then into why you see such debauchery and lechery in the mega churches that are Protestant evangelical Christian Zionists.
Absolutely. You see them dabbling in witchcraft and Kabbalah themselves. A lot of these Christian evangelical pastors actually practice Kabbalah. A lot of them are Freemasons. So you can see the influence on this movement. And they've just been, brainwashing people for over 100 years that Jews are the chosen people, that we have to bless them or we'll be cursed, and we have to support them no matter what they do, and basically turn them into a golden calf to be worshipped.
And one more time, that Genesis 12:3 that's misquoted, the quote to God to Abraham is you, not Israel. That's a Darby misquote. It's a sin when you change a word of Holy Scripture, not simply mistranslate, but actually change and insert.
Yes.
As well. And then, of course, Yeshua's story of the vineyard owner. When you kill the son, you lose the vineyard. And then later on, St. Paul, of course, saying there is no Gentile or Jew. All of that is, completely wipes out the chosen people argument, which I've talked about over and over in case somebody's missed it. You can look it all up. But let's go back to the military situation, especially since you were 82nd, and look at some more alternatives, because do you agree this looks like Friday or over the weekend?
It looks like there was a 5-day fuse on this. Whatever they're trying to do in those 5 days, I believe probably it's buying time to get the 11th Mu in position. That's part of it. And then also to allow the gas prices to come down a little bit, to normalize. And also to provide some leverage if Trump really is negotiating, which I don't believe he really is. The Iranians are saying they don't know what he's talking about.
Right.
So he's
Right.
saying he's negotiating with them. They're saying this guy's crazy. We're not talking to him at all. So who's telling the truth? So far, the Iranians, unfortunately, have a better track record of honesty than the Trump administration.
And
So
Israel, by far.
is he talking to some Iranian plant that's been placed before him by Kushner? That's just pumping him full of BS. Who knows? But the Iranians certainly have a vote, and they're saying that they're not in talks and that they're not wanting to de-escalate. They want to keep going. So,
well, put your Team America S3 hat back on, and let's talk about alternatives. I was talking about the Tripoli 31st Mu alternative. What about Kashem Island, which is a better strategic payoff than Karg, sitting at the strait's narrowest point, yes, complete with silos, anti-ship cruise missiles. Tripoli could be used possibly there. Any thoughts on that? Agreements, disagreements?
Yeah, I agree completely with that. I think that's exactly where I think Karg Island is a dangle. I think, yeah, it's valuable. They would like to seize it, but more important than that is to seize that key terrain adjacent to the narrowest point of the strait, like you just said. That's the choke point. If you want to keep the oil flowing and keep the energy flowing, that's what you need to secure. Unfortunately, the Iranian side of that strait is very mountainous, and there's really no place to airdrop a large contingent of troops except in a very small desert patch up near Tehran. So,
and that's too far away.
It's way too far away.
So also we don't have the air dominance to protect the paratrooper, and with the slow moving C-130s and C-141s would be totally vulnerable, especially to the drone swarms, right? So I don't see how it happens.
In that scenario, when you do not have air dominance, generally speaking, you would drop your troops into an adjacent country and then either foot mobile in or use vehicles into the target country. You wouldn't jump right over the enemy territory itself.
But then that is negated by the FPV, the first-person view drone swarms.
And correct? The standoff provided, yes, and the standoff provided by their hypersonics and their missile batteries, which obviously are well buried underground and they're not able to be touched because they're still firing salvos every single night.
They've got all that ground marked completely.
Oh yeah, every inch is plotted out. They've been planning for this for 40 years. So it's a death trap.
There's no way to get the 82nd. I don't see, if the 82nd could get there, they could take it. I don't think they could hold it, but I don't even see how they get there.
Well, the function of the 82nd is to act as shock troops. It's to spearhead and seize an airhead for follow-on forces. If there's no follow-on forces, they're screwed. They're just sitting ducks.
Yeah, they got
the 82nd.
Exactly. Yeah,
the 82nd only has about 3 days of operational capacity once it hits the ground before it starts needing reinforcements. If they don't receive those reinforcements,
but because of the lack of air dominance, I don't even think they can get them in. But then,
how are you going to get them in?
Then how do you link up with them? Yeah, every airborne unit. No airborne unit fights out of anything. Yeah, how do you exfil them? How do you resupply them? Yeah. So I don't see, it looks like we're going to do this, but I don't see how the Pentagon planners have made sense of this. I just don't see it.
There is no sense of it because it's not about taking ground. It's not about that. It's about an eschatological religious fanaticism and them wanting to escalate this conflict as much as possible. And they're basically throwing our best, finest, elitist troops into a wood chipper.
Oh, and so that's the title of the cast and the Substack. Again, is the Iran invasion an Israeli trap? because it strengthens Israel and greater. Although what I'm hearing from inside Israel, the mayor of Tel Aviv and the Israelis are tired of being inside bomb shelters. Is politically, the Likud party is fragmenting inside Israel. Do you have any information on that?
Too bad, so sorry, Jewish mayor. Bibi's got the Antichrist to usher in. He doesn't have time for your worries. I don't think they really care. These people are fanatics. They're everything they claim ISIS to be. They have different techniques than ISIS or Al Qaeda or Islamic terrorists, but they are terrorists. They use vaccines. They use all these other means at their disposal.
There's no child crime national database. A lot of American pedos flee to Israel. In fact, just the cyberhead just did it as well.
Yep, Alexandrovich or whatever his name is. Yeah, yep.
What about the Habahar island, the Deepwater Ocean port outside the strait? Is that takeable or holdable? Because I don't see how it is either.
I think they can take it, but I mean, again, there's a reason why all of our ships have pulled back. What is it, 500 miles or 1,000 miles? I can't remember which.
Yeah, 500.
Because Iran has established dominance over the straits. If we're pulling our forces out, that means Iran has taken that ground. So if we're going to go in there, it means that they've got it all lined up already. They're just sitting ducks. And yeah, they don't have an air force. They never had an air force. They had a few F-4 Phantoms and all this outdated stuff. But their whole military strategy revolves around these missiles and these hypersonics and that strategy of warfare. They don't need an air force. Everything's buried underground.
Yeah,
and
also subsurface war hasn't even begun. The subsurface drones, the mines, the small 20 submarine fleet that hasn't even been touched. So when Trump and Hegseth talk about wiping out the Navy, they just took out some boats that were in port and one cadet ship that were totally irrelevant.
I saw a video where they actually have their ships in an underground bunker.
Yeah.
They're touring this underground bunker and there's ship after ship after ship. So yeah, they've secured their hardware, and I doubt we've touched most of it.
It does seem like every week they reveal yet another capability. So do you agree with me also that the missiles launched from submarine at Diego Garcia was an Israeli false flag and not Iran, because Iran did not take credit for that? And there's no reason for it to do, but for the Israelis to do is to show that Iran could supposedly reach Europe with missiles.
Yeah, that was obviously a false flag by Israel. Iran has a very good track record, say what you want about them, of doing what they say and saying what they do. So if they did fire it, why would they deny it? It doesn't make any sense. And it fits it goes back to, who benefits? Chi bono. The Iranians don't benefit by firing that missile because it goes against what they've said. It makes them lose face, but it benefits Israel 100%.
I also mentioned in the Substack that this also collapses Trump politically and is fragmenting MAGA. And his latest statements are they've always been very over the top, but now they're very contradictory and confused. And with as I see the global oil crisis hasn't really started today, but Sri Lanka is rationing, Pakistan overnight price surge, India 9 days left of reserve, Japan actual usable reserves 95, Shell CEO warning shortage starts in April, Germany gas up 30%, France 30% up, America gas prices are going up already. Turkey stocks crashed, inflation exploding. Brazil watching nervously. Gas taxes suspended in states, SPR drawn down. Iran sanctions quietly paused. China, 1.4 million stockpiled, still getting Iran oil. 20% of global oil gone. 8 million barrels per day gone. So we haven't even seen that economic warfare, which is the real strategic goal, I think, of Iran in place yet. Agreed?
Yes, agreed. Yeah. Everything that's happening in India, Sri Lanka, and Australia will eventually come here. It's just a matter of time and a matter of supply chains.
So
And
then let's switch to, Michael Yon's been on many times, good friend, former SF, Ernie Pyle of this generation. He always talks about disease, war, and famine going together.
Yes.
So we're not to famine yet, but the nitrogen trap is closing. The Strait of Hormuz allowing oil tankers, that LNG, that liquid natural gas, is how we get all of our fertilizer. And I think a lot of that comes from the Middle East, correct?
Correct. Absolutely. And from what I've seen, a lot of those LNG facilities in Qatar were destroyed, if I'm not mistaken. Some of them were at least damaged heavily.
Yes. And Russia, which is the world's largest exporter, just halted all shipments until after April 21st. 3 to 4 million tons per year gone from the global market. The official reason is domestic priority, but of course this strengthens Russia's position, which keeps getting even stronger. And then Beijing has banned exports as well. So again, this is Russia and China turning against the U.S. superpower, and I don't think anybody's understanding this, but the U.S. Corn Belt window closes in mid-April. And the USDA prospective planting report arrives March 31st. The FAO food price index publishes April 3rd. These will quantify what we already know, that the nitrogen did not arrive via fertilizer.
Yeah. So Chabad Lubovich's main goal in order to bring the Mashiach is the destruction of Edom, the destruction of Esau. If Trump is their agent, then he's playing his part in our destruction because they believe that their Messiah cannot come until the West is destroyed.
Yeah, right.
Also, it ties into the big tech oligarchs because they're all intertwined with Chabad too. They all have their own Chabad rabbi. And to bring us to our knees to beg for a solution. And if you read your Bible, you know what that solution is going to be. It's all lining up. You're going to have to take some type of device, whatever that is, in order to buy and sell their crypto or whatever currency that they're planning. They want to crash the economy, bring the American people to their knees, and destroy America.
Earl Jackson says we only import 5% of domestic ammonia into the U.S. And Hedgeman asks, would the fact that Iran takes credit for its kills apply to taking credit for assignation of Bibi as well? No, Iran has not taken any credit for that, as far as I know.
No, they have not. That is, yeah. If they did knowingly assassinate or kill Netanyahu, you would think that they would mention it. But who knows? Maybe they don't have exact information either.
So any speculation then of who did what to him?
He's either dead or in hiding.
If he's dead, who killed him?
A lot of things happen in war. So, like there's a rabbi, what's his name? Oh, Mizrahi, Rabbi Mizrahi, who says, well, why don't we just wait until Iran fires some missiles and then blow up Al-Aqsa and say it was Iran, and then that will piss off all the Muslims and they'll be against Iran and they'll take care of our light work for us. Who's to say that Israel didn't take out Bibi?
I was just going to say that. a different faction. If you look at the different intelligence organizations around the world, for example, the CIA has got the biggest budget, but what's Mossad known for? Killing.
Assassinations. Yeah.
Yeah. That's their answer to everything. Kill them.
Yeah. Rise first or strike first. Rise and strike first is their motto.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did in Iran. They rose and struck first. They said Iran was going to do it, so they struck them first. That's a Talmudic, Kabbalistic, Sabbatean principle right there.
So Sri Lanka banned synthetic fertilizer in 21. Rice yields collapsed 40%. Government fell. In 2008, fertilizer and oil spiked simultaneously. Food riots erupted across 30 countries. 2026, the Strait blocks fertilizer while Russia and China withdraw the alternatives. So I don't think we're seeing Michael Jan's famine yet, even in Europe, but it is coming. And I'm not sure it's coming because of the individual farms in America. I'm not even sure it's going to happen in the United States. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think as this war stretches on, I think we're definitely going to feel impacts here at home. Regardless if the supply chains stop and we don't receive oil and other things or not, our energy sector is going to be attacked. It's a major IRGC target that they've been doing dry runs and planning for decades. Is if we attack them, they're going to activate their Hezbollah and their Quds, and they're going to take out our power grid.
Those are the sleeper cells.
The sleeper cells. Our power grid is ancient, and it's very outdated, and it's unguarded. And there's only 7 or 8 strategic substations that need to be destroyed in the United States to bring about an entire blackout over the entire country. And they very well know what those nodes are, and that's what they're. You've seen some terrorist attacks. There was one in Nevada where an Iranian national drove a vehicle into a substation. Well, that's obviously a pre-planning and a dry run for the real thing.
Yeah, a probe.
You have the Metcalf sniper attack where they were shooting 50 cals at a substation and knocked the power out of a majority of Southern California. So they've been planning and training and doing all this for a long, long time. And that's what really angers me the most is that the government knows this stuff. Trump knows this stuff. Why aren't they warning the people, hey, you need to prepare and get ready because we're in a war and these people can touch us here at home? And they're not doing any of that. It's just business as usual. Go to work 9 to 5. Oh, we're at war with Iran, I guess. La-di-da-di.
I think they did a substation near Fort Bragg several years back.
Recently,
which,
yes.
Of course, is where no SF group at Bragg anymore, but that's where Delta is at. And I was kind of like, look, we could even hit right here.
The 82nd, that's a huge installation.
Yeah.
For our foreign policy. Yeah.
Yeah. So hitting that was quite a strategic statement. Earl Jackson saying, California lost fuel imports from China already. And something about Valero. California only has 7 refineries, 6 are threatening to close due to regulations. Valero is number 8. Yeah. So yes, the real. So what you're saying is the sleeper cells. It's not going to be targeting folks. It's going to be targeting infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Absolutely. Yeah, and then we'll, once the infrastructure is taken out, the American people and all the chaos will take care of ourselves. I mean, people will descend into chaos. I was in New Orleans after Katrina, and I saw how thin the veneer of society is.
It is.
When the chips are down.
Especially in the city.
You talk about a Hurricane Katrina over the entire U.S., and that's what you're going to have. That's exactly what you're going to have. So.
Lead time, give me some of that, says lead time for new large transformers over 5 years. So that leads into another, president after. So that fits very well as well. So as we're going to wrap up here, any thoughts on the disappearances of the Los Alamos scientists and how that fits in? Melissa Casillas, Anthony Chavez, Major General William McCallahan from Albuquerque. Any thoughts? Because I don't have a clue of how that fits in.
I'm not too familiar. Was he the one that was involved in the Air Force and the UAP programs?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, he is one of several men of stature within that realm that have gone missing. And all after Trump said he was going to declassify the UAP files.
And John Michael Cullen, who has been on before, located the high-speed drones at Charlie Kirk assassination, and he disappeared as well. Although I've heard chatter that he has gone to ground, but I'm unsure about that. But the implication of that is the only people that have high-speed drones like that are nation states, most likely America, Ukraine, and Israel.
Correct. Yeah.
And the Israeli plane,
which points towards a state-sponsored operation in the Charlie Kirk killing.
Oh, yeah, obviously, it certainly looks like Israel involved in there.
Well, not only Israel, our own FBI, because they're covering it up.
Yep, very true.
And if it's the FBI covering it up, then that means the Trump administration's involved as well.
Well, looks like we're pretty much in agreement on all of this, and I'm trying to get this message out because I don't want to see our brothers and sisters die needlessly and sacrifice needlessly. What have I skipped before we wrap up here?
I can't think of anything that I can't think of anything that we haven't really covered. I think it's so important for people to understand why we are where we are right now. That it's not about land, it's not about any of this stuff. It's about religious eschatology and these fanatics trying to engineer Armageddon. And this all falls in and fits in with Agenda 2030 and the AI Messiah and all this other stuff, and getting us off of the petrodollar and into CBDCs and other cryptocurrencies so that they can control us and, enslave us more than we already are. And at the head of all of that are people like Chabad Lubavitch, who are going to be the Sanhedrin. And the New World Order is going to be based in Jerusalem. And the Sanhedrin and the Noahide laws are what they're going to use to enforce.
Yeah.
It's all shaping up exactly as people have been, like myself, have been warning about for a long time.
And we should mention, though, I also want to mention that Team America is addressing this already internally. We just addressed this. We were just talking about this, so we're looking over the horizon, doing what we can. So you can always join Team America by going to jeffreyprather.com. Join Team America. Anything you want to say about that?
Team up, train up, and be aware of your surroundings, and get right with the Lord, and we'll get through this. That's what
Amen.
I have to say.
Catholicism is rising. Evangelical Protestant Christian Zionism is falling. It's reached its apex. It's an intergenerational. The younger generation are not buying it. They're actually reading Scripture and following Yeshua, which I think is a good sign as well.
That's a very beautiful and positive thing.
Say again?
Very beautiful and positive. That's a very beautiful and positive thing. Absolutely. And that's a silver lining. Absolutely. Is, there's great evil in the world, but there's also great good. And people need to stay focused on that and not lose hope that just because all they see is evil, you can see the wind moving the branches of the trees, but you can't see the wind, but it's there. That's how good is. And the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled was not that he didn't exist, but that good doesn't exist. And good does exist.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for coming on. Say hi to your wonderful family for me. And, for those of you who don't know Team America, this is an example of the excellence and quality that we find in Team America. So thank you so much for coming on. And thank you for all your continuing work.
Give my best to you and yours as well. I appreciate it. It's been an honor. Thank you for having me.
God bless. Okay, so really important show. Really important to have Nathan on. And I guess we're in total agreement on what's going on. Please read my latest Substack. Think about joining Team America at jeffreyprather.com. Think about joining the chaplaincy at christchaplaincy.com and make a difference as well. And so remember and pray for our troops and pray that our leaders come to their senses. And I will keep giving you ruthless truth. But remember, even though they're trying to take our freedom, freedom is never given. It is taken. So take it.